let's get into our new favorite draft, our mock draft together. And let's just go down the teams. We'll hit on any like big things like the Shador of it all.
Yeah.
And then if you think that anything would affect something that the Eagles do or don't do, let us know.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you're on the clock.
Okay.
The Titans are on the clock, right?
I think everybody knows it's Cam Ward, and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you like the fit?
I do like the fit. He's got immense upside. His downside worries me a little bit, but I love the story. The kid came out of nowhere, was a 3-star recruit. Nobody recruited him. He went to a tiny school in Incarnate, whatever it is, in work, and then he transferred to Washington State and then to Miami. That shows me he's got some grit, some toughness. I like the fit.
Okay, so and 2 are the Cleveland Browns. What are they going to do? They're interesting.
Yeah, I think they're really interesting. I've got them taking Travis Hunter, and I think a lot of people see it that way. And interestingly enough, I think the way I would work with Travis Hunter would be he would be a corner for me, and we'd have a package of offensive plays available. And Andrew Berry, the GM, has been quoted as saying for them, he's a wide receiver first, and then they'll figure him out on defense. And I think it's quite the compliment to this kid that some GMs see him being the top corner in the draft, and some GMs see him being the top wideout in the draft. I watched the kid play a bunch. I mean, he's played 130 to 160 plays a game. I've never seen that kind of conditioning. I think the important thing or the critical aspect of how much he can play both ways will be how much he can handle mentally and how they divide up his practice time.
For some reason, anytime people talk about him, he reminds me of like the Simone Biles of gymnastics. Like no one's seen what he can do before, really, just like her. And she just like kept, instead of being like boxed in, she kept like setting the bar higher and higher and higher for herself. And I just feel like that's what Travis is going to do and just kind of completely change like two-way players in a way.
I've not seen on tape a real two-way player. You can go back and say some guys get package here or package there, but nothing like this. And I can't wait to see if it's Cleveland. I can't wait to see. And Kevin Stefanski's the head coach, so it's going to be on Kevin. And he's a Philly guy, and I love Kevin. And I'm hoping. I think it'll be really intriguing to watch how Kevin and Andrew figure is the best pathway, A, to help the kid become special, and then B, to help the Browns get better.
Yeah, I think he'd be great with them too. Like he would, I just see like with Coach Stefanski, I could see his eyes lighting up and just ready to get after it with all the different types of ways they can utilize him and make him better. So it's cool that it would be a good fit for Travis too.
Yeah.
Okay, 3, New York Giants. What's going on there?
Yeah, I think it's Abdul Carter, and they get one of the top players in the draft. A lot of people see similarities to a former Penn State linebacker edge rusher in Micah Parsons. That's, I think, somewhat legitimate. So they get a dominant player at the top of the draft, and I think it's important to them because of what they did at the quarterback position. They signed Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, so there's no need to reach for a quarterback. So I think the Giants take the best positional player available at that point, which I think in their minds will be Abdul Carter.
And do you think they'll get a quarterback later?
I do. I think both Cleveland and the Giants, who just based on my mock, have passed on a quarterback. I've seen more interest in day 2 quarterbacks from teams this year than I ever have. So I think a bunch of teams are kind of looking at Tyler Shuck from Louisville, Jalen Milroe from Bama, Will Howard, who, by the way, is from the Philly area, Ohio State, and Kyle McCord, another Philly guy, went to St. Joe's. Kyle McCord, those 4, I think, are going to go on the second day, and I think teams are grinding the hell out of them.
That'll be fun. Okay, 4. We talked about them a little already, so who do you think the Patriots will be grabbing at 4?
I gave them Will Campbell for the reasons we already talked about.
Okay, cool. 5, Jacksonville Jaguars.
New GM, new head coach. Um, I fiddled around with Jalen Walker, who's one of my top 2 or 3 players in this draft from Georgia. But I think they go with what they'll perceive a little safer pick in Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan. And I think either way, I had him taking a defensive lineman, but an edge guy. Either way, it helps that defensive line. And I think he's a really solid pick and will help that defense.
Okay, cool. And then number 6 on the clock, the Raiders are on the clock. What are they going to do to?
I think really hard to pass up on Genty.
Ashton Genty, yeah.
Genty from Boise State. And Pete Carroll has a history. When he was at Seattle, he had Marshawn Lynch. He had a bunch of dominant running backs. They were all physical, downhill tough. It took pressure off his quarterback, Russell Wilson. A lot of play action. So it sets up Pete Carroll in a comfortable, familiar situation. It sets Geno Smith, the quarterback, up that they traded for, in a comfortable, familiar situation. It takes pressure off the offensive line, being able to run the ball downhill efficiently. I love Ashton Genty to the Raiders at 6.
Okay, I like that too. All right, Jets are 7.
Yeah, I think they're sitting there looking at the tackle position, so saying if New England takes Campbell, we're taking Membo. If they take Membo, we're taking Campbell. So I think in this situation, I've got them taking Armand Membo. Theory behind that is they're fairly talented at the skill positions. Their offensive line needs to be upgraded, and keep in mind, who their quarterback is. It's Justin Fields, who's still a young guy. They got to protect their quarterback here, and I think they do that with Membo, who's really gifted.
Okay, cool. 8, Carolina Panthers.
I'm going to give Carolina Jalen Walker, who played off-the-ball linebacker and edge rusher at Georgia. And he's the guy that I gave a higher grade to him than I did Abdul Carter, even though they play the same position. Slightly higher. Like, I think they're both outstanding players. So I love this kid. I think he can be the next generation of defensive players that can come off the edge, can line up over the center and rush inside. They can play off the ball linebacker and be a spy on all these athletic quarterbacks that the league has now. This kid is so fast, twitchy. I love watching him play. So I'm giving Carolina Jalen Walker.
You don't think the Eagles will come up and grab him?
No, way too far.
Okay, just a thought.
Way too far.
Okay, the Saints are at 9, and that's another one that everyone's focused on. What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I mean, they could draft Shedeur Sanders right here if they want. They have a new head coach, and that's also usually a good time to draft a new quarterback to kind of tie the head coach and quarterback together. I kind of think that they feel like that division, which is one of the weakest in the league, is up for grabs. So the GM, Mickey Loomis, has been there forever. Mickey brought Derek Carr there. Mickey drafted a quarterback in the 5th round last year, Spencer Rattler, who I think is a good player. So the GM is going to be sitting there, wait a minute, we got 2 pretty good quarterbacks here. Do we need to take a quarterback at 9? And we need to get position players, especially on defense, if we want to compete and win this division. So I think they're going to take the best defensive player on their board. I've got them taking Jihad Campbell, who's an off-the-ball linebacker from Alabama. There's a good chance they could take Will Campbell, the corner from Michigan. It's going to depend who's their highest-rated defensive player.
Are there 2 Will Campbells?
2? No. Did I say Will Campbell?
Yeah.
There are 2 Campbells, yes, and I said Will.
Okay.
It's Will Johnson. I keep saying Campbell. I keep doing it. I'm sorry.
I just really thought that there would be that's a very possible name to have 2 of.
Anyway, Will Johnson.
Okay.
So I think New Orleans will take a defensive player. I haven't taken Jihad Campbell.
Okay, and are they someone you think would take a day 2 quarterback?
They'd be. It would go back to the same conversation we just had. Yes, they could.
Yeah.
And they have 2 picks in the 3rd round, a similar situation to both Cleveland and the Giants. They pick at 40 in the second round, and I think they're going to want to. I think they're going to use that player at 40. Now, they could draft a quarterback right there if they love him. Like Jalen Milroe from Alabama is so friggin' gifted, it's off the charts. But he needs to sit a year or two, and he could sit behind Derek Carr and learn an awful lot. So I think at 40, if Milroe was there, it would have to be a consideration. I still think they probably would wait a little later.
Okay. 10, the Chicago Bears.
I think the Bears are interesting, and a lot of people think they'll take an offensive lineman. But with both those tackles gone already, I think they're going to go to Penn State and take Tyler Warren, the tight end. They pair him. They've got a young quarterback, obviously, Caleb Williams, who's in his second year. They're talented at wide receiver. They got DeAndre Swift at tailback. They've got a good tight end already out of Notre Dame that's a local Chicago kid. But if you pair the two of them together, I think Tyler Warren becomes another playmaker for that young quarterback.
Okay, cool. 11, the Niners, and that's another team. They kind of let everybody go during free agency. So what are they doing here?
Yeah, I think it's a big year for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan because they're a little bit in transition. Had to make a lot of moves, even more so than the Eagles. To transition out of a lot of guys that are making a lot of money, let them go. And so they have 11 picks this year. It becomes a big year for them. I think D-line and O-line, the big bodies inside, are really critical for them. But I thought the best player available right now, it's sitting at 11, is probably a corner. And I mentioned Will Johnson from Michigan. I've got him taking Jahdae Barron from Texas, who I like a little better. I think he's a little more consistent, not as injury prone, and can play nickel or outside. But I think they have a chance here to take the number one corner in the draft. The question is, in their mind, who is it?
Okay. 12, the Dallas Cowboys. What is Jerry Jones going to do?
Yeah, I mean, if Genti doesn't go 6, I think 12 would be a natural place for him to land. I think Omarion Hampton, the running back from North Carolina, is a consideration. But at the end of the day, I kept just going, okay, there's no wideouts off the board yet. They can pick the first wideout of the whole draft at 12, pair him with CeeDee Lamb, make them more explosive on offense, understanding it's not a great wide receiver draft and it is a great running back draft. So they can go get a running back later. So I got him taking Matthew Golden from the University of Texas. He ran 4.29. I think if you're a defensive back, including the Eagles, thinking about the Eagles this year, having to play Dallas twice, if you're Vic Fangio and you're looking at CD on one side and this kid, Matthew Golden, the other side, there's some cause to be worried because this kid's going to be good fast.
And doesn't Dallas love good and fast?
Yes.
I think I definitely bet on Golden too this year. I remember. I think he did great for me.
Yep.
On to the 13th pick, the Miami Dolphins.
They're looking to move their corner, Jalen Ramsey. So a lot of people think they're going to take a corner here, and they might. In my mock, Will Johnson is still available, and that would be a logical pick for them. They're obviously going to move on from Jalen Ramsey. But I always
did you see there? I'm sorry. Did you see there was rumors that the Eagles were going to do a trade with them involving Jalen Ramsey? Do you think there was any truth to that?
I think it all depends on where. There's two things involved here: whether or not there's a contract upgrade, and what the terms are for a trade. What's Miami looking for? I don't really see this as a strong possibility. It could, but Howie will wait till it becomes more advantageous for him, especially as other teams aren't going to give Miami what they're looking for.
Okay.
But
so in the draft, what are you thinking?
Instead of a corner, my whole thing is you got to keep Tua upright. And
yeah, you do.
When their left tackle missed games last year, they weren't very good. Tua got beat up. They're not really good inside either. This might be too early for Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, but man, the kid played left tackle at North Dakota State, played inside at the Senior Bowl. He's smart. He's tough. He's aggressive. I've got him taking him, and I think 3 years from now, people are going to look back and go, man, he's the most valuable offensive lineman on their team.
Oh, wow. Okay. 14, the Indianapolis Colts. What do you think they're going to do?
I think they were holding their breath and praying that Tyler Warren would be available. And when he was not, they're kind of going, you know what? Colston Loveland from Michigan's got a grade right below him. It's extremely rare to see two tight ends going.
Two tight ends in the top 20?
Well, let alone in the
top 15?
Let alone in the first round. We don't usually. I think there have been 3 tight ends taken in the last 5 years in the first round. So 2 in the top 14 would be kind of crazy.
But that would actually mean, if it went the way you're saying, that would be more tight ends taken in the top 15 than quarterbacks. That would be wild.
I mean, a couple of years ago, let's take a look at my chart here. In 2022, Kenny Pickett was the only first-round quarterback.
Shut up.
And the best quarterback in that draft was the last pick in the draft, Brock Purdy.
Brock, yeah.
So it shows you how kind of crazy the quarterback first-round thing is. But anyway.
Okay, so you think Indy's going tight end?
Colston Loveland. It's a big need. They're going to need some offensive linemen, too. They lost a couple in free agency, but I love the tight end pick for them.
Okay, cool. 15, the Atlanta Falcons. What do they need?
Yeah, they have 5 picks. They don't have a third, a fifth, or a sixth. They need more than anything now. They need a corner to play opposite A.J. Terrell, but more than anything, and they've been saying it's pretty obvious, they need help on the edge. I've got them taking Mike Green from Marshall, who kind of popped all year long, high production, a lot of sacks, but then he went to the Senior Bowl and showed he was a little more powerful and twitchy than people thought. I watched him in the O-line, D-line drills. I was like, wow, I'm happy I'm here to see it live, because sometimes that projects easier. You can see the twitch and the power when you're 10 feet away better than you can on the tape. So got to take a Mike Green from Marshall.
I love when guys make themselves money at like a Senior Bowl or an East-West. I love that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right. What's next? All right. Arizona Cardinals at 16.
Yeah, they added 4 starters on defense in free agency, which means I think they're going to concentrate a little more in the draft offensively. And their offensive line has struggled to protect Kyler Murray a lot. I like Kelvin Banks, who's a tackle from Texas. And the reason I like him is he can play guard or tackle. Their right tackle, Jonah Williams, is close to the end. He's 33, 34. I mean, you could pop him in this year at guard, upgrade your run game, upgrade your pass protection, and if necessary, have him kick outside in a year or two. So I love the Kelvin Banks pick to Arizona at 16.
Okay, that sounds helpful for them.
Yep.
17, Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They're like the best, worst team to me.
Well,
does that make any sense?
Well, it does, because they're the best, or one of the best, on the offensive side. But last year they were one of the worst on the defensive side. They almost all of their money on the salary cap is invested in. They got like 7 or 8 high-paid offensive players. That was a big.
Well, the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. That was the big thing during free agency. Yeah. And
the year before it was Joe Burrow, and so they've paid a lot of people on offense. It's actually what Bill Polian used to do in Indianapolis with Peyton Manning. They paid a lot to keep. They knew they were winning games because of Peyton in the offense, and they just had to draft intelligently on defense, and they just kept churning guys through the draft, and that's what Cincy's, I think, going to have to do here. And I've got him taking a defensive end, an edge rusher from Tennessee, James Pierce, high level length and speed.
Oh, he's good.
Yeah, he's twitchy as hell. I think at 17, they've got some issues whether or not Trey Hendrickson wants to come back. Are they going to trade him? Are they going to keep him? Regardless, they need another defensive end, and I like James Pierce.
Do you think their whole draft will be defense then, pretty much?
Doesn't have to be, and a lot of it depends on how the board falls. But you got to go in there thinking, we got to come away with some defensive pieces.
Yes. Let Joe Burrow have like 5 minutes off the field. Seattle Seahawks at 18.
Yeah. They've got 10 picks, and they've got 5 of the first 92. So they've got 1 in the first, 2 in the second, 2 in the third. That's the best draft positioning in the draft, most value. John Schneider's really good, the GM. Obviously, the reason they have multiple picks is they traded the quarterback and they traded the wideout, Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
So their biggest issue is offensive line. They addressed some of it in free agency, but I've got them taking Tyler Booker, who's a pure guard from Alabama. They've had some interior offensive line issues. They want to run the football. This kid is a space eater. He's just going to get into bodies and push. He's going to create space in the run game. He'll get better and better as a pass protector, but I think he's a good enough athlete that he will. Some people were upset with his 40 time. I'm okay with it. I mean, he's an old school football player, and I think he's a really good pick for them at 18.
Oh yeah, because the Bucs have that combo of really talented running backs, right? White and somebody else. Who is he? Roddy White and
Well, I'm talking about
Urban.
Yeah, we're talking about Seattle though. We're on.
Oh, just kidding. I just acted like you.
There you go.
I think it's because the Bucs are next. I think that's why.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so Seattle, got it. Sorry about that. I messed that up.
No, the Tampa thing is interesting.
Same concept, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I think
let's put Tampa on the clock. Tell me what they're going to do.
Okay. I think they're sitting there going, we can't believe Will Johnson fell to us. And they need a consistent corner. Jamel Dean has been injured. They've had a lot of rotating corners, and they need to upgrade the corner position. They signed Hassan Reddick in free agency off the edge. So Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, and a lot of people thought he was a top 5, top 8 pick. He was injured this year, missed a bunch of games this year. I mean, if Tampa got him at 19, I think they'd be jumping cartwheels.
Jumping cartwheels. That's a new one.
Or whatever you do with cartwheels.
Twirling?
There you go.
All right. Pick number 20, the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I really wanted to give him Omarion Hampton here, the running back from North Carolina. I think he fits what they do. I think he would help their offense because they're a downhill play-action team. But the running back class is so deep, I think they can come back in the second or third round and pick up a quality running back at that place. And so, again, because the wide receiver class is not that good and their wideouts aren't that good, I went with Tet McMillan from Arizona, who's a big, long, powerful, creates separation with length, with power, great hands, works hard to get the football. I think he's a good fit with Cortland Sutton and some of their wideouts. I think he'll be good for their quarterback, Bo Nix. So Tet McMillan, and then go get your running back at 51 or in the third round.
Okay. 21. This is a big asterisk for a lot of people. Pittsburgh Steelers. Is this when we're finally going to hear Shador's name, or what's going on?
Lee, this is when you're finally going to hear Shador's name.
I can see it. I can see it.
I can
Why?
too. And, well, I don't think it precludes them from signing Aaron Rodgers. As a matter of fact, I hope they sign Aaron Rodgers and draft Shador Sanders. And the reasoning for that is I think Mike Tomlin is the kind of head coach that can not only handle that, but make it work for them. You can lean on Aaron. I love Shador coming in and learning from a Hall of Fame quarterback, sitting behind him for a full year, hopefully. I love it for Aaron because I think he's got a chance to compete, to get into the playoffs and maybe do some damage. And I think Mike Tomlin can handle all the personalities. Like, hey, Shador,
if anyone can.
Yeah, we're going to do whatever's best for our team to win every week. Take the ego out, everybody. Aaron, you take it out. Shador, you take it out. This is all about whatever helps us win. And it's hard to mess with Mike. And I think
you know that doing ayahuasca is supposed to take your ego out. So maybe Aaron's already a couple steps ahead.
Maybe he is. Maybe he is. Thank you for that observation.
Yeah, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. Is this drafting Shador here and signing Aaron Rodgers, is that just basically being a Russell Wilson, Justin Fields 2.0? And that didn't really work that well last year.
I think it's different in a couple different ways. The veteran quarterback comes in. I think people think that Aaron has more in the tank, even though he's older than Russell.
Okay.
I did a game of his live last year, early in the year. I thought his Achilles was still bothering him. Some of the tape I saw later in the year, I thought he was driving it, looked better. He's not ever going to run like he used to be able to run around. He's just older and beat up, but he can still spin a football. So I think Aaron Rodgers is an upgrade, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, Shador is drafted by them. He's not Justin Fields through Chicago, etc. It's, hey, if you take a young quarterback here, he's yours. You've vetted him. You've stamped your approval. And your plan in the building is to ultimately groom him for success as the face of your franchise. So I think their quarterback room is significantly upgraded.
Okay. And I mean, they also, to that point, upgraded their wideout room during free agency as well, right?
They did.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get better with their existing wideout. They got to get more out of him, who's a really talented kid, former second round pick. They made
George Pickens.
What's that? Pickens. They made
Pickens?
Yeah, they made the trade with Seattle, so they've got
for DK Metcalf.
They upgraded that. So there's a bigger opportunity now. They lost Najee Harris, but he's not dynamic. He's consistent. They picked up Gainwell from the Eagles, to complement their offensive running back situation. So, I think it's a good situation.
Okay, cool. All right, 22. The Chargers. I kind of forgot about them. What are they going to do?
Another team I wanted to give O'Marion Hampton to, because they really, with Jimmy Harbaugh, want to ground and pound. But for the same reason, you can get a running back later. They also have a defensive tackle need, but defensive tackle class is outstanding. And I'm looking at that wideout class going, after Emeka Egbuka, I think there's a drop-off. And if you pair him with Ladd McConkey, it gives Justin Herbert what I think is the beginning of a really dangerous group of wideouts. So I gave him Emeka Egbuka, the wideout from Ohio State.
Okay, cool. I'm sure they would like that too. All right. Yeah. 23rd on the clock is the home team of the draft, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
What do you see them doing?
It's fun. They have a significant wideout need, so they're a little pissed off that Egbuka just went. But they also need defensive tackles. I decided to give them Derek Harmon, who's a defensive tackle from Oregon. He's the second defensive tackle off the board in a really talented group. And I decided at the end of the day, I think the second defensive tackle is better than the fifth edge or the fourth wideout or fourth corner. Okay, there's just more quality there than some other needs. Okay. So I thought he's a really solid pick and will help them immediately.
Okay, and that's like a best player on the board example, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, 24. We touched on this too, the Vikings.
Yeah.
What's your pick for them?
And ironically enough, Wabi, I've got the New York Giants coming up, and
we're doing trades. We're doing a trade.
I'm
trade.
doing
What's
a
that
trade.
sound? Wait, what's that sound that they make when a trade comes in? Like ding, 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 ding. Trade alert! Trade alert!
There you go. Nice job. The Giants are coming up from 34 to 24. They're given the first pick in the third round, which is number 65, to Minnesota. And in return for that, they're taking Jackson Dart, quarterback, Ole Miss.
Ooh. Third quarterback off the board in the first round. I like that. Wow. Okay. I think that sounds great for. That's
like
a win-win for both of them. I
Yeah,
can see
I
Jackson
told you
Dart as
Minnesota
a
only
New
has
York
4
Giant.
picks. And I like him in that room also. If you look through kind of the prism of his eyes, he's playing behind Russell Wilson, who's a veteran that's kind of risk adverse, and Jameis Winston, who's the opposite. Jameis
He's
Winston
never
has
seen a
not
risk
seen a
in his
pass that doesn't
life.
think it's complete. Right. So he'll have an opportunity to sit behind 2 guys that have had quality NFL careers in different fashions and kind of apply it to his game and learn. So I like him. I like the fact that the Giants were able to take Abdul Carter at 3. Were aggressive to come back up and try and get a quarterback of the future, realizing that both the veteran quarterbacks are just stopgap guys for 1 or 2 years max. And you bring in Jackson Dart and make him your guy.
Okay, cool. I think I love that. 20 pick number 25, Houston Texans. What are they going to do?
Well, and this is where I said with our earlier conversation that Andy Reid and Kansas City might want to get up to 24, Minnesota, because there's only a couple of good O-linemen left. And Houston and the Rams, the next 2 teams picking, they both have O-line needs. So
Right.
Houston's on the clock, and I've got him taking Josh Simmons, tackle, Ohio State, who tore his patella week 6, and I think would have gone a lot higher if he stayed healthy. So I think there's really good – as long as the medical checks out, I think you're getting really good quality. He's a starting left tackle all day long. And then the Rams, right after that, take Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. So back-to-back Ohio State offensive linemen. Donovan Jackson's a guard that had to kick out and play tackle when Simmons got hurt last year. And I love him with the Rams. He can start inside, he can kick outside and play for Havenstein when he retires. So I think there's a lot of value for both teams, for both Simmons with Houston and Donovan Jackson with the Rams.
The Ohio State coach will be happy for them. And after that,
Yep, exactly.
27, your guys, the Baltimore Ravens. You love how they make moves and decisions. What do you think they're going to do?
No, it doesn't matter whether it was Ozzie Newsome in the old regime, Eric DaCosta in this regime. They're usually picking late because they're so good every year. They're not afraid to move up. They're not afraid to move back. They understand how to read the board. And in this case, they read the board correctly. And like usual, when they stick and pick, it's always a good player. They get the safety, Malachi Starks from Alabama. And the reason I love him is he can play nickel also. And if they plug him in at nickel, they can take their corner, Marlon Humphrey, and move him back to corner, who was playing nickel a year ago. So another great pick for Baltimore Ravens.
A couple weeks ago when you told me about Malachi Starks, I looked him up, and now I've been talking to him about him to everyone.
Well,
he's just so good. I just like the versatility. Like, it's crazy.
Yep. And he just smells like a Raven, and I can usually I can tell those guys.
Yeah, you definitely can. All right, 28, Detroit Lions. What do you think?
Detroit Lions. Everybody's kind of been talking about edge rushers, and that's obvious. You're going to get Aiden Hutchinson back from injury. Hutch is a big, strong, speed to power, long pole, wins with power, speed, toughness, and he's high level. I'd love to see a counterpart on the other side that's a little twitchier, bendier, can win either way. It gives them a chance to flip-flop and take advantage each week. So I'm giving them Donovan Ezaraku, the edge rusher from Boston College, who's the best bender I've seen in a couple of years, and his twitch is really special.
Shout out BC, getting one of the BC Eagles off the board in the first round. Okay, now on to the Washington Commanders, who annoyingly for the Eagles did a great job in free agency. They're 29, picking a couple picks ahead of the Eagles this round. What do you think they're going to do?
Yeah, I'd be interested to see whether or not under this scenario, Howie would be sitting there at 32. Do I want to get up ahead of Buffalo, because Buffalo's probably going to take a corner, and the last corner in the first tranche is probably going to leave? Or am I really happy because the defensive tackle class is just coming to me? I got my pick of the top guys, basically. So
Okay.
in this case, I decided Howie would stick and pick probably because he felt so good about the defensive tackle class. So
Okay.
Washington, I have taken Michael Williams, defensive end. They lost Dante Fowler to Dallas in free agency. This kid, Michael Williams, is gifted. He's got big time potential. He could go a lot earlier. Like I think right now,
Okay.
I saw something that you would like betting odds where he was going to go number 9 to New Orleans. So the reason he could go as high as number 9 is he's gifted. Last year he was hurt. His production wasn't as much as people wanted to see, so he's been knocked down a little bit. But I'll tell you what, he's got length, speed. He moves for a 6'5", 265. He moves like a ballerina. I really like this kid, and I think if Washington were to get him at 29, they'd be stealing.
They'd be jumping cartwheels for the ballerina.
There you go.
All right. Then next, the Bills that you were just talking about.
Yeah,
At 30.
And I just said that I think they've got a corner need. One of the corners is Benford from Villanova, who's outperformed. He's a better player than people thought when they got him. He just signed a new contract, but they're light on corners. The last of the high-level corners in most people's minds, not necessarily mine, but most people, is Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, who ran in the 4.2s, gifted. If they can get him to consistently tackle, he's got all pro capabilities. So I've got Buffalo taking Maxwell Hairston at 30.
Okay. And so if Kansas City stays at 31,
Yep.
I know you said they might want to jump up, but if they stay, what are they doing at 31?
Well, they're pissed off because all the O linemen are gone. So they're probably going to have to wait and load up a little bit later. But they can't believe Shamar Stewart, the defensive end from Texas A&M, is still there, who was a similar conversation to Michael Williams we just had. He's a height, weight, speed freak. The problem is his production. He only had 4.5 sacks in 3 years at A&M. And people say, why? And I don't think there's anything wrong with the kid. I just don't think he's an instinctive pass rusher. So you're going to have to get him in a room with a really good coach, a bunch of people that understand and will help him develop. And I looked at Shamar Stewart and I went, if you pair him with George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Omenahu, and you bring him in the room, he can play inside, outside. That's one of the most formidable defensive fronts in football. So Shamar Stewart.
You had mentioned him as a possibility for the Eagles, too. Speaking of last pick in the first round, the world champions, the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock at 32. Dad, what are they doing?
Under this scenario, I think Howie's laughing. It's like, okay, I wanted a corner, but the 4 top corners are gone. I was looking at edge guy, but 7 edge guys went. But look at the defensive tackle class, one of the most gifted classes in recent history. It's got quality up top and depth throughout. And I can sit here and take Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss, at 32. He probably has top 15 ability. It's another one of those
that would be a Howie pick.
He's had some trouble off the field. He hasn't been quite as consistent as you want on the field, but his quickness, his twitch, his burst, his toughness, he's got all of it. And if you put him in that Eagles defensive line room, and keep in mind, obviously they lost Milt Williams. Jordan Davis is a question mark. They got to figure out his 5th-year option, and I'm guessing no. They could lose Jordan Davis a year from now. So backfilling that defensive tackle room with quality like that, oh my gosh. And they're all a bunch of dogs in there, and they're so well coached. That would be kind of special.
Okay. Something that the Eagles fans can be excited about, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and then just that rounds up our Mayock mock draft. Woo! Good job, Dad.
You wore me out. I'm done.
That was definitely your most fun draft you've ever done. But Just real quick.
Yeah.
Since that didn't tire you out at all, and we're not almost an hour into this. Eagles draft in round 2. Do you have any predictions there? Just to keep it a little Eagles based.
Oh, Eagles in the second. So they have 8 picks total. Second round pick is the same one in the first, the last one, number 64.
Yep.
If you're looking, so basically what we talked about is you're probably going to need to draft some defensive guys because of all the free agency losses.
Yep.
You took a D lineman, right? A defensive
tackle.
At
32.
You took a defensive tackle. So you kind of look at 64 and you go, who might be available at edge and at corner? At edge, Nick Skirton, Texas A&M, JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State are both potential logicals. If Landon Jackson was there, I think they'd jump all over him, but I don't think he'll make it to 64. At corner, I think Trey Amos will be gone. If Siobhan Revelle from East Carolina, who had an injury last year, another kind of Eagle pick, Siobhan Revelle is really gifted. He made a late transition from wideout to corner, got hurt, but height, weight, speed, length, really special. Siobhan Revelle would make sense. Ben Morrison from Notre Dame, another corner that got hurt last year, had hip surgery. He makes sense. I think those guys, I love those kind of guys. And then if you're looking kind of offensive line, depending on, who knows how long Lane Johnson's going to go, even though you lost Mekhi Becton, you backfilled him with Kenyon Green in the trade. I love Tate Ratledge maybe in the third round. It's a little early in the second, but you know what? You know why? One of the reasons I like him, Lee?
Tell me.
He's from Georgia.
So he's a dog.
It's another Georgia dog.
Okay. Cool.
And then if they're looking at offensive tackle / guard, there are a couple of guys that I think make sense. Emory Jones is a right tackle. I don't think Connerly will get to them. So, yeah, there's some. Jonas Savanea, probably more of a second or third round guy who can play guard and tackle. He'd be intriguing.
Okay. So the possibilities are endless. Yeah. And you never know what Howie's going to do.
Honey, it's hard for Howie to sit still, let alone not.
Well, what are you going to do for the draft? Are you going to watch it?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Are you going to have a notebook out?
I will probably have the mock I just gave you out, along with my notebook. And I've got 2 notebooks over here that are about this thick and, based on this year's reports. And I wish it moved quicker, the first round.
Yeah.
Like the third round, go fourth round, they start moving. But
at least you can take your own bathroom and food breaks now. It's not based off of TV.
Very true, hon. Thank you.
Did you see last night, Shaq, after the game, he literally got up while they were on camera talking and shuffled his way out the door to the bathroom because he just had to go.
Really?
Yes. I'll send you the clip. It was freaking hilarious.
That's fascinating.
It was so funny, Dad. I'll send it to you.
Some guy, once you get to a certain level, it's kind of like you don't care whatever. You're just like, hey, I had to go. See ya.
I'm pretty sure that's his level. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times during the draft I wished I had a bottle under the table to pee in.
I know. I felt bad for you guys. You did not have many breaks.
No.
But, okay, thanks for doing a mock with me. That was so fun.
I told you, wore me out. I can't.
Well, you still have your voice, so there's that.
My voice, I was just thinking.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Dad. We'll talk about what actually happened at the draft next week.
All right, honey. Thank you.